Hi there, I'm Andrew, you're watching ThatGamerAjax, and welcome to this week's video where we're going to be talking about sci-fi tabletop role-playing games class, the Naturalist. Now, much like druids and rangers in Dungeons & Dragons, the Naturalist focuses on a very strong connection to nature itself. Now, along with this, you draw on unique powers that are only available to this class, and you can really focus on kind of entangling your enemies with nature, or healing your allies, or even doing detrimental effects to your enemies through combat, and you have a lot of great roleplay instances available with this class. So let's dive right into the strengths of this class, starting with the fact that this is one of the most powerful healing classes in the game. Now, I know that we've already talked about the combat medic, which you can check out here if you haven't looked at it already, but this is a class that focuses on having some great passive benefits, much like how a bard has the Song of Rest in Dungeons & Dragons. This is a class that is able to, during short rests, boost your allies' health by, it's around 15 plus whatever your judgment or your wisdom score, if it's a little bit easier for you to understand from Dungeons & Dragons. Now, you can only do this a limited number of times per day, but it is great passive healing, and healing is something that's relatively hard to do in this game, especially outside of those combat scenarios. Along with this, you also have access to nature magic, which can heal your allies for a certain amount per turn, or just give kind of bursts of healing if you need it. Now, out of the classes that I've covered on the channel so far, when it comes to roleplay, the Naturalist is one of the strongest based on the way that its kit works. Along with having a book with passages that you can read from to get benefits, you also have an animal companion that you bond with at the very first level. You can also specialize in that a little bit later in the game. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But Naturalists are also incredibly rare based on Veil of the Void's lore. Now, this could be a little bit different with your Game Master's game, so take that with a grain of salt. But this is a class that tends to be relatively isolated from all of other civilizations. You really focus on being that hermit, so you have a lot of interesting roleplay mechanics already built into your kit and your lore. Naturalists are also able to play the game in a lot of different ways. Do you want to kind of sit back and focus on being a healer? You can do that. You can kind of get into the thick of a fight if you would like through some of the magic and some of the weapons that are available to you. And you can also play as a very stealthy class if you would like. Along with this, some of the spells that you have make it so that way you can focus on summoning creatures instead. So if you want to just sit back and make all your cronies do the work for you, that's something that is entirely possible. Now let's talk about specializations. In Dungeons & Dragons, you're able to get an archetype when you hit level 3, and then you can kind of build it out from there. Now this game works a little bit different. You hit this at level 5, and then your things come at every 5 levels after that, up to the maximum of 20. So with the way this class works, you have 3 distinct playstyles that you can choose from. You can be the archetype, which means that you can take on entire aspects of the gods of life and death in this game, gaining unique benefits that become much, much stronger later in the game. One focuses on healing, the other focuses on becoming a strong melee combatant. You have the contractor, which focuses on basically making strong bonds with some of these ancient beasts that are available in Veil of the Void. They become a companion that if they die in combat, you're able to resummon them a little bit later, and you can change this out on a regular basis, though it does take time in game to be able to form this contract. When you get up to the highest level, you can even form a contract with a dragon, which is already pretty cool. And lastly, you have the Fate Weaver. Now this is a very interesting choice because you take some benefits such as losing your natural sight to be able to see the strands of fate itself, and you're able to get points during rest that you can use to alter fates in multiple ways between both yourself, your allies, and your enemies. This is just a very interesting way to play the game. Now, in terms of weaknesses, Naturalists are going to probably take a little bit of getting used to. You have a lot that you have to manage between some of the spells that you have, your animal companions, and if you summon things, you have unique stat blocks that you need to really keep track of. So this is one that if you're okay with multitasking and being able to track multiple things, it's probably a good class for you. Along with those stat blocks, if you've played the Beastmaster in Dungeons & Dragons, this might be an easier class for you to kind of ease yourself into the way that it plays, so just be ready for that as well. And as I mentioned before, the Naturalist is just a very niche class overall due to its strong connection to nature, the way that it plays between its multiple play styles, and the fact that it can be a strong healer, but you don't have to be. You can also be a summoner if you would like. It's just very, very unique compared to some of the other classes that are available in this game. It's a little less straightforward on what exactly you're supposed to do. So in conclusion, the Naturalist can be a very, very powerful class in Veil of the Void. Now, unfortunately, I don't have any players that are playing this currently. I do know that I've got one of my guys who has been kind of eyeballing this as a backup character if something happens to his current character. But If you like playing druids or rangers, I would highly recommend checking this class out if you give this game a shot. It would probably be the easiest transition for you between playing Dungeons & Dragons and playing a sci-fi game that more or less does the same thing, and this one really leans into those fantasy elements. So that's going to wrap it up for this video. Really, I just like talking about this, much smaller sci-fi game, and I really like to be able to get a conversation going with, D&D players, because that's one of the big games that's available at the table. So let's talk a little bit. If you played druids before, what's the appeal? Maybe this would be one that you might want to check out. I do videos every week and currently working through all the classes in Veil of the Void. So just, check those out. I'll probably have a playlist somewhere around this area for you to check out. But don't forget to subscribe, and I post my videos every Monday. All right, bye.